Now let's start with the human respiration. Now the human respiration, as you see, is just very complex like that of man, which is the most complex organism in the animal world. So basically our respiratory tract consists of the nasal passage. From here the nasal passage comes the pharynx region. It is at this pharynx region that the foot pipe and the windpipe they differentiate. In the foot pipe, obviously it's guarded by an opening called the epiglottis that we had already discussed. From here starts the windpipe, that's the trachea. Now this trachea, before that, in this region only we have our voice box, that is known as the larynx. Now from here we will straight away go to the windpipe, that is trachea, and you can see it is guarded by some C-shaped rings. This is to ensure that the trachea doesn't collapse. Now slowly you can see the two spongy places, which is the lungs, which is guarded by the ribs. Of course, ribs is one of the important part of skeletal system which protects some important internal organs known as the lungs. So lungs are the places where there are a lot of small air sacs called alveoli. Now let's see how this trachea breaks. Now you see in the case of trachea, it gets diversified into two. This thick part, thick branch, the thick subdivision is known as bronchus. Bronchus singular, bronchi plural. Now this bronchus further divides into small subdivisions that is known as the bronchioles. Once the bronchioles are subdivided, it comes to an end in small air sacs known as alveoli. Now alveoli are the structural and functional unit of the human respiratory system because these are the places where the gaseous diffusion will take place. So basically the air will come in from here, go to the alveoli. Now alveoli, they are very thin. I've already discussed the features of the respiratory organs. So they are very thin walled structures. These are thin walled sac-like structures which enables the exchange of gases. That means oxygen will come inside the body and carbon dioxide will go outside from inside the body to the outside through the alveoli only. Now, this alveoli is loaded with a lot of blood vessels. Those blood vessels wait over there. Why? To pick up oxygen. Now, to move from one place to the other, you need a car. So now we will come to how this oxygen is circulated throughout the body. Now you see over here very evidently, once we come over here, the alveoli, as I have told you, they are waiting for accepting that oxygen. Now that oxygen has gone in and diffused inside to the blood vessel. Now as I was talking about a car, in our body we have a car also. Like for example, the bus that you are there in, the bus that you come to school by, from your house to school, that is your hemoglobin in the body. What it does? It picks you up from your house and drops you to school. So similarly, these hemoglobin is basically an oxygen affinity protein molecule that is always waiting to catch up with the oxygen. So once the oxygen comes up, the hemoglobin catches it up. So once it catches it, it will take that hemoglobin car will take it round your body to the place where the oxygen is needed. That means your school. So you come from your house to your school, the oxygen will come from its house, that is lungs, to the school, that is the cell. Once it is there in the cell, you do your studies the whole day. Similarly, the glucose that has reached the cell by absorption in the digestive system, we have already learned that in nutrition in animals, that oxygen, of course the food has been broken down, digested to form glucose. Now see over here, in this the glucose is being acted upon by this oxygen. Can you see? This glucose is coming from the digestive system by the process of absorption, and this oxygen is coming from the respiratory system. And this is exactly how our physiological processes in our body are interrelated to each other. Once this is done, obviously in the cellular respiration, what will happen? The glucose in presence of oxygen will break down into carbon dioxide, water, and it will provide energy. Once this carbon dioxide is there, again that car will be waiting. That car, hemoglobin, will again pick up that carbon dioxide, take it to the lungs again. Again it will throw it out as the carbon dioxide. Now you must be wondering that how can only one hemoglobin do this job? No, there are many hemoglobins. Our RBCs, that is red blood cells in our body, is full of hemoglobin who are waiting. So if one car is not available, like one day your bus breaks down, you come to school by another car. So similarly, you will be carried to school. So you will be carried to the cell by another hemoglobin. The oxygen will be carried. And once the oxygen sits on the hemoglobin, it is known as oxyhemoglobin. And if a carbon dioxide sits on the hemoglobin, it is known as carboxyhemoglobin. Now that we have already studied about respiration, how it takes place in human beings, starting from external respiration to cellular respiration, now what we will be studying is how this external respiration takes place. Now, external respiration, that means breathing in of oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide, takes place by a process called inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation is also known as inspiration, and exhalation is also known as expiration. Now, when air is inhaled, now you try keeping your hands on your chest and try to breathe in. Now, what you see is your chest has expanded. Once the chest has expanded, you see there is a diaphragm. Now, diaphragm is a thin sheet of muscle that separates the chest cavity with that of the abdominal cavity. Okay, so generally the diaphragm is it's in a dome shape, something like this. Now once we breathe in, what happens? It becomes flattened, something like this. So since the diaphragm has contracted, you see it has become flattened. Once it has become flattened, what will happen? The volume of the lungs have increased. See, the volume has become bigger. Now you've already studied in Boyle's law that volume is inversely proportional to pressure, right? Because volume is inversely proportional to pressure, what happens is the volume is increasing over here, the pressure has decreased. Because the pressure has decreased, there is a void in the lungs now. That void has to be filled up by something from outside. So that void will be filled by air that will be inhaled in through your nose and will reach the lungs, and thus you have breathed in oxygen or inhaled oxygen. Next we come to exhalation. Now again try breathing out. You see that the chest has contracted back again to its place, as a result of which the diaphragm, which was flattened like this all this while, have become again dome shaped like this, right? So because of this, what has happened? The volume has decreased. You see, now you compare, the volume has decreased. Again, apply Boyle's law. Pressure is inversely proportional to volume. So what will happen? Since the volume has decreased, the pressure has increased a lot. So now what will happen? This air inside has to be thrown out, or else there cannot be a balance in the pressure. So the extra air will be thrown out of the body through the lungs, through the nasal cavity, and carbon dioxide, which was produced by the cellular respiration that happened inside your body, that carbon dioxide will go out of your nose as exhaled air. Now let's see what we breathe in and what we breathe out, okay? Now see, in case of inhaled air, what do we have? We have more oxygen, 21% oxygen. Carbon dioxide is only 0.03% carbon dioxide, that is actually less than exhaled air, and water vapor, that is less water vapor. When we inhale in, there is less water vapor. Now let's compare it with exhaled air. It contains only 16% oxygen. Now you see the oxygen is less than inhaled air. It contains 4% carbon dioxide. Now carbon dioxide is more now than inhaled air. So you see we are throwing out carbon dioxide. And it contains more water vapor. Now try putting your hand underneath your nose and breathe out. You see, you will observe small droplets of water vapor that has come out. That is nothing but the exhaled air that you threw out. Next we come to the rate of breathing. Now the process of breathing pumps in oxygen into your body and removes carbon dioxide. We already know that. And this breathing, you do not tell your body to breathe. They say breathe and you breathe in, and you say breathe out and you breathe out. No. It is an involuntary action that is taken care by the respiratory system of the brain. You don't even know when you breathe in or you breathe out until you forcefully breathe in or forcefully breathe out. So the average breathing rate in adult man is about 15 to 18 times per minute. And this breathing rate, after you run or you jog, you will see that it increases, of course. Next, oxygen required for breathing, I have already told you, is carried by hemoglobin. And the normal range of hemoglobin in the body is 12 to 18 grams per deciliter of blood. So if you have it less, you kindly start taking iron pigments if there is less of a hemoglobin in your body, or this will lead to anemia. Now the deficiency of hemoglobin will cause obviously the reduced oxygen carrying capacity, and it will lead to tiredness and lack of energy. So anemic people feel that they are less energetic than others. So why do we feel hungry is your next question after a physical exercise. Because in the body, physical exercise actually starts burning the food, and food is getting consumed. Obviously, energy is being generated to give you energy for doing different physical activities. So obviously, food is burned faster, food is oxidized faster, and hence you feel hungry after having a jog in the morning or a dance practice, or you do some sporting activities. That's why. Next we come to another thing, that why do we sneeze? Sneezing is a normal process. So when we inhale air present in the surroundings, various unwanted elements get inside our nasal tract. Dust, smoke, and there are some hairs in the nostrils. You might have seen you have some nasal hair that's originally function is to prevent these unwanted particles to get inside your nasal cavity. So that causes the irritability in your nasal cavity, and you sneeze to get rid of those. So sneezing is actually good. And last but not the least, now we will come to the last part, that is carbon monoxide poisoning. Now what happens is carbon monoxide is formed when carbon doesn't react with oxygen completely. There is a partial oxidation. So complete oxidation will help you form carbon dioxide, and incomplete or partial oxidation will lead to formation of carbon monoxide. So what happens here, let's discuss. So say for instance, I'll give you a example. You're sleeping in a room where it is completely covered, there's no doors and windows because it's very cold, and there is a fireplace, and over there the fire is burning, and you have closed all the doors and windows and slept. So what will happen is, slowly all the oxygen in the room will be used up, and since there is no supply of oxygen outside, what will happen? There will be no oxygen, and partial carbons will start burning. So as a result of which, what will happen? Carbon monoxide will start forming, and this carbon monoxide is extremely harmful for your body. Why? Because it will start reacting with the hemoglobin, and carbon monoxide, just like carbon dioxide, has affinity towards hemoglobin. So hemoglobin will start catching up the carbon monoxide, and in place of carbon dioxide, which forms carboxyhemoglobin, it will start forming carbaminohemoglobin. And because of this reduced level of oxygen and this carbaminohemoglobin that is formed in the blood, this will prevent the oxygen from reaching the cells and finally to the brain, which can actually lead to death and be fatal to your life. So now that you've understood what respiration in human is, if there is any doubt, please feel free to post, and please kindly write the PDF that I've sent you, the notes that I have sent you, along with of course the diagrams that have been given to you. I hope there will be no problem this time. Thank you.